The restaurant manager shouts, "Pack your things, you're done here." The waitress looks up, shocked. It's her own son giving the order. He's the new owner. What she doesn't know, the truth behind his anger will break her heart and fix his. The bell above the diner door jingled like it always did, a tired little sound that had seen too many years, too many boots, too many goodbyes. Linda Carter wiped her hands on her faded apron and smiled as the morning crowd rolled in. Same faces, same small-town chatter, same burnt coffee smell floating through the air like comfort itself. "Morning, Hank," she called out, sliding a mug toward an old rancher with a crooked hat. "Mornin', Linda." "Coffee still tastes like truck fuel," he joked. "Depends who's brewing it," she shot back, giving a playful wink. The regulars laughed. That was Linda, mid-50s, silver streak in her chestnut hair, voice rough from years of smoke and chatter, but heart still softer than pie filling. She'd worked at Miller's Diner for 27 years, through new owners, bad winters, and the kind of quiet heartbreaks nobody talks about. The lunch rush always hit like a storm, and she danced through it like muscle memory. Plate, smile, refill, smile, ring the bell, repeat. At the counter, her coworker Janet leaned in close, voice dropping to a gossiping whisper. "You hear the news?" Linda kept writing the check, not looking up. "What news?" "Place got sold last week. Whole damn diner. New owner supposed to show up today. Some young hotshot. Money from Tech or something." Linda chuckled. "Tech? In Oak Ridge? What's next? Wi-Fi on the tractors?" Janet shrugged, grinning. "Guess he's loaded. Folks say he's turning the place around. New menu, new staff policies, the whole deal." Linda just smiled, pouring syrup over a kid's pancakes. "Work's work, Jan. You show up, do your part, go home. Ain't no need to make it fancy." But deep down, that bit of news stirred something uneasy in her. Change wasn't her favored flavor. When the rush slowed, she slipped into the back room, a cramped little space with lockers and a flickering light that buzzed like a mosquito. Her locker door was covered with yellowing stickers and one old photo taped right in the middle. A photo of a boy, maybe 10 years old, hair messy, grin wide enough to light up a room. She brushed her finger over it softly, whispering, "Hey, kiddo." Nobody knew much about that boy except Janet, who'd been there long enough to know Linda once had a foster son, a bright kid who'd been taken away when life got hard. Linda never said his name out loud anymore. Some things just hurt too much to name. "Hey, Carter," called Rick, the cook, from the kitchen door. "You coming back out or taking a nap back there?" "Keep your apron on, Rick," she laughed, pocketing her order pad. "Ain't nobody waiting for your 5-star eggs." She stepped back into the diner. Same flickering neon, same cracked linoleum, same jukebox that hadn't worked since Obama's first term. And yet, to Linda, it was home. Then around 1 p.m., the whole place shifted. A line of shiny cars rolled up one of them, sleek, black, and way too clean for Oak Ridge, parked right in front. Janet peeked through the blinds. "Well, damn, guess the hotshot's here." Linda followed her gaze, heart oddly tight. A few local reporters were out there too. Cameras, flashes, even a small-town news van with Channel 5 painted on the side. The diner door swung open, and in stepped Ethan Carter. Tall, mid-30s, maybe younger. Tailored suit. The kind of confidence that didn't come from this town. The kind you bought with money, mistakes, and headlines. He glanced around the room with sharp eyes that looked like they'd seen too much, too young. "Afternoon," he said flatly. Rick muttered under his breath, "That guy looks like he fires people for sport." Ethan ignored everyone, heading straight for the counter. He checked his watch, tapped the surface twice, then said to the room, "I'm the new owner. We'll be doing some upgrades." Janet's smile twitched. "Oh, that's, great." Linda stood frozen. Her heart hammered in her chest like a bad drum solo. The name, the face, the voice. It couldn't be. Ethan Carter. No way. No, that Ethan? But when his eyes flicked toward her, just for a second, she saw it. Same eyes as that boy in the photo. Older now, colder, but unmistakable. He looked at her like she was a stranger. And then, without missing a beat, he turned back to the staff. "This place needs discipline," he said. "No freebies, no tabs, no exceptions. We'll run on schedule, or not at all." The room went dead quiet. Linda's throat felt dry. She wanted to speak, to ask him why, to tell him she'd looked for him every damn year. But all she managed was a shaky nod. "Yes, sir." He barely glanced her way again. The new rules went up that afternoon. Laminated sheets on the staff board. Strict service timing, no discounts, zero tolerance policy. Linda stared at them for a long time before punching out. Outside, the sunset painted the street orange and gold. She looked up at the reflection in the diner window, her tired face beside his name, now painted fresh on the door, Carter's Diner. She gave a sad little smile and whispered, "Guess it's still your home after all." The next morning, the diner smelled like new paint and tension. The grand reopening banner hung a little crooked over the door, red letters shouting louder than the customers ever could. Inside, every employee looked like they'd been drafted into a war they didn't sign up for. Linda tied her apron tight, the same way she did every day, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Rick was cursing under his breath in the kitchen. Janet was fussing with her hair, trying to look corporate ready. And then the black SUV pulled up again. Sleek, shiny, and way too proud for a town that still held bake sales to fix potholes. Ethan Carter stepped out like he owned the damn world. And technically, now, he did. Reporters were there again, snapping photos, asking questions. "Mr. Carter, why a diner? After building your company, why come back here?" He smiled, practiced and polished. "It's not about the money," he said. "It's about legacy." Linda watched from the window, that word hitting her square in the chest. Legacy. He had no idea what that meant, not the way she did. When he walked in, everyone froze, like they were part of a museum exhibit. He moved through the place, slow and calculated, like he was scanning code. He noticed everything: a chipped table leg, the smudge on the glass door, the faded jukebox that hadn't worked in years. "First thing," he said to the group, "clean this place up. We'll be replacing the furniture, redoing the floors, updating the kitchen. No more handwritten tickets. We'll use tablets." Rick snorted. "Tablets? You think we're flipping Applebee's?" Ethan's eyes flicked toward him. "Do you enjoy working here, Rick?" The room went silent. Rick shut up. Linda stepped forward, trying to sound calm. "Sir, we've always handled orders fine. The customers like the old way. Makes it feel familiar." He looked at her, really looked this time. For a flicker of a second, something crossed his face. Recognition? Maybe? Or maybe just annoyance. "Familiar," he repeated. "That's another word for stuck. And this place, it's been stuck for decades." He turned away before she could respond. Janet whispered behind her hand, "Damn, he's cold." Linda didn't answer. She just kept wiping the same counter spot. Like scrubbing it could wash away the years between them. As the day went on, Ethan's presence filled every inch of the diner. He wasn't loud or cruel, just sharp. He timed everything, took notes, questioned every move. "Why is that order taking 12 minutes? Who authorized this extra bacon? Why are we giving free coffee refills? That's a loss. The man treated kindness like it was a leak in the budget. At noon, the lunch rush hit hard. Linda moved on autopilot. Smile, pour, serve, ring up. But under the surface, her nerves buzzed like live wires. She glanced at Ethan, who stood by the counter with a digital stopwatch in hand. Stopwatch, like she was a damn racehorse. "Order for table 6, Carter," Rick called out. Linda grabbed the tray, hustled toward the booth, 2 truckers laughing about something dumb, and just as she leaned forward to serve the coffee, her hand trembled. The cup tilted. Hot coffee splashed across one guy's sleeve. "Aw, hell," the man yelped, jumping up. Linda's eyes went wide. I'm so sorry, sir. Let me—" She grabbed napkins, blotting uselessly. Before she could fix it, she heard that voice, cool, clipped, and cutting through the noise like a blade. "That's strike 3, Ms. Carter." Her head snapped toward Ethan. "Excuse me?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't. "You've been late twice this week. Now you've burned a customer. That's 3 strikes." Linda's lips parted, trembling. "Son," he froze, eyes turning to stone. "You don't call me that," he said. "Not here." The entire diner fell silent. Forks stopped clinking. Even the jukebox seemed to hold its breath. Janet whispered, "Holy shit." Linda's heart cracked right open in front of everyone. The customers looked away, embarrassed for her. She took off her apron slowly, the fabric suddenly heavier than it had ever been. "Guess that's it then," she said softly. Ethan didn't answer. He just looked down at his tablet, like she was a number on a screen that didn't balance right. Rick muttered, "Cold, man. Real cold." Linda walked out without looking back. The bell over the door jingled. The same sound as always, but this time it felt like the end of something sacred. Outside, the afternoon sun was blinding. She blinked hard, trying to swallow the lump in her throat. Her hands were shaking so bad she dropped her keys twice before she could start her car. Back inside, Ethan watched her go through the window reflection. His assistant, a young woman named Claire Benson, probably mid-20s, shifted awkwardly beside him. "Sir, you didn't have to do that." He didn't look up. "Rules are rules." She hesitated. "Still, that was—" "She abandoned me first," he cut in quietly. Claire blinked. "What?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Nothing. Forget it." He turned away, face unreadable, but his knuckles were white around the tablet. Outside, Linda's car rolled past the diner sign. The bold new logo read Carter's Diner. His name, his success, yet somehow it had never looked emptier. Claire watched him for a moment, her voice softer now. "You know, sometimes being right doesn't mean you're not wrong." He didn't reply, just stared at the empty doorway where Linda had stood. The same woman who used to hum lullabies when the nights were too long, though he'd long convinced himself those memories didn't matter. But as the hum of the diner carried on, new customers laughing, forks clinking, life pretending nothing happened, that old ache stirred somewhere deep inside him, a feeling he thought he'd buried with his childhood. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan Carter didn't feel like the man in charge. He just felt lost. Rain had rolled in by evening, soft at first, then steady, the kind that blurred headlights and made the streets shimmer like wet glass. Inside her beat-up Corolla, Linda Carter sat parked outside the grocery store, hands still trembling on the steering wheel. The "Fired Waitress" headline from the town's gossip page was already making rounds online. Oak Ridge was small, and word traveled faster than wind. She stared straight ahead, lips pressed together, trying to keep her breath steady. 27 years of coffee pots, orders, and Sunday regulars, gone in 5 minutes flat. Her phone buzzed. Janet. He's an ass, Linda. Everyone's saying it. Don't let him get to you. She stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen, then just locked the phone. There wasn't anything left to say. She started the car and drove home. Every diner sign she passed seemed to whisper the same thing. You lost him once. You lost him again. The place was quieter now. The neon open sign hummed in the window, but the cheer was gone. Ethan Carter sat alone in the corner booth, laptop open, reports glowing across his face. Numbers, projections, inventory charts, the language he spoke best. No feelings, no noise, just control. But he hadn't been able to focus, not really. Every few minutes, that moment replayed in his head. Her trembling voice, that single word, son. It hit different when she said it. Something in him had cracked for half a second, like a window rattling under too much wind. Claire Benson, his assistant, stepped up quietly, holding 2 coffees. You look like hell, she said, setting one down. He didn't look up. That's not in your job description. Neither's babysitting you, but here we are, she said with a half smile. You planning on sleeping here tonight? Ethan sighed, finally closing the laptop. Just trying to make sense of this place. It's chaos. No structure, no order. Claire leaned on the booth across from him. It's a diner, not a boardroom. People come here to breathe, not clock in for judgment. He stared out the window, the rain streaking the glass. You didn't grow up here. No, but I've read the file, she said softly. You did. That stung. He didn't respond. After a beat, she said, You know, the way you looked at her today, it wasn't like just another employee. Ethan's jaw tightened. She's the reason I ended up in the system. She let me go. Or maybe the system took you from her, Claire countered. He looked up sharply. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe not, she said, standing. But I know what guilt looks like. She left him there, alone with the rain, the buzzing neon, and that damn ache in his chest that no amount of success ever filled. Linda's place was small, but clean. 2 rooms, 1 lamp, and a cat named Boots, who'd been her only company for years. She kicked off her shoes, hung her soaked jacket, and sat down at the little round table that used to hold Ethan's homework when he was 10. The photo still sat in the middle, the boy with the big smile and the scraped knees. She picked it up, brushing her thumb over the edge. I'm sorry, baby, she whispered. I tried. A knock came at the door, sharp, quick, impatient. She hesitated, heart jumping. When she opened it, she froze. Ethan, standing there in the hallway, still in his suit, rain dripping from his hair. Can we talk? He said. She stared at him, breath caught. After what you did today, you got some nerve coming here. He didn't flinch. I just needed to say something. She crossed her arms. Make it quick. He hesitated. For once, unsure of himself. You said son back there. I did. Don't. Her eyes flashed. I raised you, Ethan, for 5 years. You called me Mama Lynn when you couldn't sleep. He looked away. You let them take me. Her voice broke. They made me. I was sick. I couldn't pay rent. And He cut her off. You could have fought harder. Linda's hand trembled, tears stinging her eyes. You think I didn't? You think I stopped looking for you? He stayed silent. Stone spill. I sent letters, Ethan, she said, voice cracking. Hundreds of them. Every address the state gave me, every foster home, every damn city. They all came back. You think I gave up? I never did. He looked at her then, really looked, and saw it. the pain, the truth, the years of quiet hope. But pride's a stubborn thing. "I don't know if I believe that," he said softly. Her face fell. "You don't have to, but I do." For a long moment, the only sound was the rain outside and boots purring on the couch. Then she said, "You fired me, Ethan. I can live with that. But don't you dare erase me." He swallowed hard, eyes glistening for a second before he turned away. "Good night, Miss Carter." And just like that, he was gone, back at the diner. Next morning, the world went on like nothing happened. Breakfast rush, clinking cups, small-town radio humming through static. Ethan stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, trying to act normal. But the more he worked, the more her words echoed. "You think I stopped looking for you?" Claire came in holding the local paper. "You're trending," she said. "What?" She laid the paper down. Front page headline: "Local tech millionaire fires beloved waitress. Crowd outraged." Underneath, a photo of Linda walking out with tears in her eyes. The comments online were brutal, heartless, no soul, typical rich kid. He stared at it, jaw clenched. This town loves its drama. Claire crossed her arms. "This isn't drama, it's fallout." He sighed, rubbing his face. "Great. PR disaster." She shook her head. "Not PR, personal. You broke something that was already fragile." He didn't answer, but his hands trembled as he folded the paper away. Outside, thunder rolled across the valley. Linda, walking home that evening. By dusk, the storm had passed, but the air still smelled like rain and regret. Linda walked home from the corner store, clutching a paper bag of groceries she could barely afford now. Her shoes splashed in shallow puddles. As she passed the diner, she stopped for a second, watching through the window. Ethan stood there, head down, scrubbing a counter by himself. For a heartbeat, she saw not the cold boss, but the same little boy who used to help her wash dishes, soap bubbles on his nose, laughing at nothing. She smiled sadly and kept walking. Inside, Ethan looked up just in time to see her silhouette disappear into the night. Something heavy twisted in his chest. He whispered to the empty room, "I didn't want to fire you, Mom." But the only thing that answered was the hum of the fridge and the flicker of the neon sign. The clash wasn't over. It had just begun, not between boss and employee, but between guilt and love, pride and forgiveness, past and present. Both of them were still standing in the wreckage, staring at each other from opposite sides of the same wound. The winter before everything blew apart, Oak Ridge lived under a sun the color of weak tea. The cold seeped through windows, through bone, through whatever hope a person had left after long shifts and short paychecks. Back then, Linda Carter was 31 and still thought life could be bent by willpower. She worked breakfast at Miller's Diner, slept 4 hours, then worked dinners at Harling's Bar and Grill 2 towns over. On the fridge, a magnet held up a crayon drawing of a house with crooked windows and a lopsided tree. Under it, a boy's handwriting. Me plus Linda equals home. Ethan was 10. He collected bottle caps and pocketed fortunes from cookies. He wore his backpack like armor and told jokes that landed sideways, then grinned until they stuck. He called her Mama Lynn when he was tired and Linda when he wanted to sound grown. Their apartment smelled like laundry detergent and grilled cheese. The carpet was a storm of old stains. The couch had springs that pinched backs if you sat wrong. But it was theirs, and on Saturday mornings, sunlight warmed the kitchen table just enough that pancakes felt like a celebration. That winter, the heater began to sputter. The landlord, Ray Holland, promised to get around to it. He never did. Linda put plastic over the windows and wore 2 sweaters, but Ethan still shivered at night, breath fogging like tiny ghosts. Then came the cough. Small at first, stubborn later. Linda told herself it was a cold. Work through it. Work fixes everything. But the cough turned to fever, and fever turned to missed shifts. Missed shifts turned into a boss named Vince saying, "I like you, Carter, but I can't keep paying you for not being here." She nodded, dizzy, and said she understood, because that's what you say when you can't afford to collapse. 2 weeks after that, there was a knock at the door. Paula Green, a caseworker with tired kindness in her eyes, stood with a clipboard and a gray scarf that let the wind right through. "Routine wellness check," Paula said gently, stepping around boxes and laundry baskets. "Got a few things to chat about." Ethan watched from the kitchen doorway, the pencil tucked behind his ear. Homework, half finished. He didn't blink. Paula did the tour, bathroom, kitchen, the bedroom with 2 mattresses on the floor because Linda hated bunk beds once she realized how far a kid could fall. She took notes, looked at the space heater with concern, jotted more notes. "You're doing your best," Paula said finally, voice soft. "I can tell, but the building's not up to code, and I'm seeing missed school days." "He had the flu," Linda said, steady, factual. "Doctor's notes on the fridge." She swallowed. "I've been sick, too," Paula nodded. "We'll get you resources, vouchers. Space heater's not safe. We can try to get assistance on the utility bill." She looked at Ethan and smiled. "You like math, kiddo?" "I like rockets," he said, dead serious. "Math's the engine." Paula laughed, a sound that said she didn't get to laugh much at work. "That's a good answer." They made a plan. Case notes, check-ins, a list of cheap clinics written in block letters. Linda signed where she needed to sign. She felt like she'd stood on an ocean all day and pretended it was a sidewalk. For a while, they kept it together. Linda took odd jobs, ironed shirts for neighbors, sold a guitar she hadn't touched since she was 21, and certain music would save her. Ethan shoveled driveways and came home with pockets full of change that clinked like hope. But the cough came back meaner. One night, Linda woke up on the kitchen floor, with the phone still in her hand, the 9 and the 1 pressed, the second one not yet dialed. Ethan found her and shook her until her eyes focused. "Hey," she whispered, forcing a smile through the ache. "You're okay." He nodded, but didn't let go of her sleeve the rest of the night. The eviction notice showed up 4 days later. Cream paper, black stamp, a timeline that didn't care about people. Ray Holland said it wasn't personal. "It's business," he said. "You understand." "Right," Linda murmured, holding the paper like a hot pan. "Business." Paula came again with another woman, Marla Jensen, who wore a serious expression and a legal tone. They spoke in words that floated over Linda's head. Compliance, temporary placement, pending review. They kept saying, "for now," like it was a blanket. Ethan sat on the couch with his backpack and the shoebox where he kept his bottle caps. His face didn't move, but his foot tapped, a steady kick, 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 like a clock beating too fast. "We need to arrange something safe until your housing stabilizes," Marla said, eyes on the clipboard. "I can fix this," Linda said. "I'm close on a job. I just need a little time." "I know," Paula said, and she truly did. "We're not taking him away. She stopped, the lie too sharp to swallow. "We're making sure he's safe while you get better." "I'm safe with her," Ethan said, standing. His voice came out too loud. "I'm always safe with her." Paula crouched to his height. "Buddy, this is not forever." "You promise?" he demanded. Paula looked at Linda, then back at him. I promised we're going to try. The day they came, the sky was a hard blue with clouds like chalk smudges. A county sedan idled at the curb. Deputy Tom Reynolds stood next to it, hat in his hands, like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. Linda packed the backpack herself. 2 shirts, socks, a comic book, math workbook, the fortune from the cookie that said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." She tucked the fortune in his front pocket and smoothed his hair, the way she did when he was little. "You keep your rockets in your head," she said. "Nobody can take those." "You said you'd never let me go," he whispered, jaw trembling. "You promised." Her throat closed. "I know, baby. I know what I said." She pulled him close, breathing in the exact smell of him. Pencil shavings, laundry soap, winter air. "I'm not letting go. I'm going to run after you until my legs stop working. Do you hear me?" He nodded, not believing. Paula touched Linda's elbow. "We have to. Just one more second," Linda said, fiercely. Like maybe a second was enough to change the rules of the world. She walked him to the car. Each step felt like concrete hardening around her ankles. She buckled him in herself, hands calm through miracle or madness. She slid the shoebox onto his lap. "Your caps," she said, trying to sound normal. "You keep collecting, okay? Keep counting. That's your map." He grabbed her wrist when she tried to close the door. "You'll come get me?" "Every day I can," she said. "Every day." He watched her the whole time the car pulled away, eyes locked like a tether, until distance snapped it. He didn't cry. He just pinched the seatbelt fabric so tight it left marks in his palms. Linda stood on the curb, wind pushing her hair back, the street too quiet. She didn't go inside. She couldn't. He walked, past the diner, past the laundromat, past the church where she'd once left a prayer folded crooked under a candle. She kept walking until the sun dropped and the cold remembered her bones. In the weeks after, Ethan bounced twice, first to the Whitaker home, a foster house with a big trampoline out back and rules posted on the fridge. Then to a group home 2 towns farther, where the beds were in rows and bedtime sounded like 100 boys trying not to cry. He learned to stop asking questions. He learned to hold his breath when the caseworker said, "temporary." He learned to love numbers because they didn't lie. He mailed 1 letter to Linda the first week, then 2 more, then none. The letters came back stamped "Return to Sender" after the eviction. No forwarding address. The system left no breadcrumb trail, just closed doors and polite shrugs. On Linda's side, everything became lists. She made phone calls until her voice went hoarse. She wrote letters and hand-delivered them to the county office. When she finally got a new place, a smaller apartment with a working heater and a window that didn't rattle, she pinned his school photo to the wall and made the bed he would sleep in when he came home. She sent dozens of letters into the machine, to the Whitaker home, to the group home after that, to a P.O. box somebody swore was his, to an agency office where a receptionist named Betty said she'd do her best. Some came back with rubber-stamped indifference. Some disappeared like prayers whispered into wind. One spring morning, Paula showed up at the diner and slid into a booth. Her scarf lighter now, her face older by a year. Linda poured coffee, hands steady from practice. "I got you a visitation date," Paula said. "Saturday, 2 hours, supervised." Linda's heart kicked. "Where?" "Ridgeview Center," Paula said. "He's a little farther away these days." "Farther doesn't mean gone," Linda said, already pulling a pen from behind her ear to write the address on a napkin. The visit never happened. a paperwork error, a staff shortage, an email that went to junk. When Paula came back, her apology was real and useless. Linda didn't yell. She didn't cry in front of her. She thanked Paula for trying and went home and pressed her forehead to Ethan's photo on the wall until the world stopped spinning. Years have a way of stacking quietly. Ethan learned to code on a borrowed laptop and learned to leave before he could be left. Linda learned to stand still and wait for letters that never arrived, then to keep writing anyway. On birthdays she couldn't share, she baked a small cake and played the radio and sang under her breath. Once, when Ethan was 17, a volunteer named Mr. Calloway at the group home handed him a thin stack of envelopes. "These bounced around," he said. "Someone thought they might be yours." The handwriting was familiar, slanted, careful, the kind that belongs to someone who believes in the power of getting it right. Ethan didn't open them. He put them in his drawer like artifacts. That night, he lay awake with a letter pressed to his chest and told himself he didn't care. By the time he aged out at 18, the world had taught him two rules: keep moving and don't look back. He was good at both. Back in Oak Ridge, Linda stood at the bus stop at dawn every January 12th, his birthday, with a thermos of coffee and a gift in a paper bag she would never deliver. She watched the road and told herself that the horizon was just a door taking its time. The day she got sick the second time, she taped a note inside her locker at the diner in case someone needed to find him someday. "Ethan Carter. If you see him, tell him I never stopped." Beneath it, she stuck the old photo again, the one where he grins like the future's already decided. Years later, when a sleek black SUV rolled up to Miller's, with cameras flashing and legacy on its lips, Linda's heart didn't recognize the man in the tailored suit, but her bones did. Bones remember the weight you carry and the shape it leaves. He walked in with numbers in his eyes and a stopwatch where his pulse should be. She whispered his name in her head and kept working, because that's what you do when love and survival have learned to share a body. And when he looked straight through her like she was just part of the furniture, Linda took a breath she'd been holding since the day a county sedan took her boy away. And she kept standing. Because even when the story breaks you, somebody's got to hold the thread. By morning, the storm had rinsed Oak Ridge clean, but the streets still wore last night's grief like a hangover. The sky was a cool sheet of pewter. Puddles sat in the cracks like little mirrors, collecting cigarette butts and secrets. Linda Carter left her apartment with her canvas tote and that old thrift store umbrella that always leaned left. Boots, the cat, watched from the window, his tail like a question mark. She locked the door twice out of habit, tucked her chin into her scarf, and headed down Pine Street toward the bus. She didn't have a job anymore, but muscle memory still woke her before sunrise. The diner was a part of her body. Getting fired didn't switch off the ache. 2 blocks from the stop, she saw him. The man everyone just called Raymond, though half the town didn't know if that was his real name. Mid-60s maybe. Beard like steel wool. Army jacket from a war nobody asked enough about. He was hunched by the pharmacy entrance, coughing deep. A sound from somewhere that felt all the way to the bottom of a person. "Morning, Ray," Linda said, because kindness doesn't need permission. "You eat yet?" He tried to wave her off, shivering. "I'm good, Lynn." Another cough ripped out of him. He wasn't good. "You're lying," she said lightly, kneeling. The sidewalk soaked her jeans, but she didn't flinch. "You on anything? Any meds? Water?" He managed a smile that showed too much gum. "Got half a bottle of Flint water." He chuckled at his own terrible joke, and then coughed so hard his body Okay, comedian, let's sit down before you pass out. She eased him back against the brick, pulled her scarf off, and wrapped it around his throat. Warmth. First rule. I know the rules, he sniffed. I ain't stupid. I never said you were, sweetheart. She held his wrist like she was checking a pulse. She was. Then pressed the back of her hand to his forehead. That old mama move you never unlearn. Hot as hell. You got a fever. Could be pneumonia. Just a cold. And I'm just the Queen of England. She looked up, scanning the empty street. A teenage girl in a yellow raincoat hovered by the lamppost, phone in hand, uncertain. Hey, honey, Linda called gently. Can you run inside and ask for bottled water? Tell 'em Linda will pay 'em back. If they give you trouble, tell 'em I'll square it today. The girl blinked. Sure, okay. She darted inside. Raymond wheezed. Linda's breath turned to fog in the cold air as she rummaged in her tote. She pulled out a plastic grocery bag and unfolded it flat. Then her old diner apron, white, with coffee stains like ghost fingerprints. Figure I'd retired this today, she muttered. Looks like it's got one more shift in it. He tried to laugh again and failed. What happened? She asked, watching his chest rise shallow. You sleeping under the overpass again? Library kicked me out. Fell asleep in the warm, he said, embarrassed more than angry. Dreamed big for a minute there. Dream bigger, but breathe first. She counted his breaths, the nurse she never got to be. I'm gonna call 911. He shook his head fast, panicked. No hospitals. They don't let me keep my shoes. Last time Ray, hush. Shoes we can buy. Bodies we can't. She put a hand on his shoulder. Steady, human. Stick with me, okay? The girl reappeared, clutching 2 water bottles and a crinkled bag of cough drops. The guy at the counter said it's on the house, she puffed, then blurted, Are you the lady who got fired yesterday? Linda smiled, soft. Guess I am. She cracked the water for Raymond. Held it to his mouth, then parted a cough drop from the plastic like it was surgery. What's your name? Tessa. Good name. Tessa, can you do me a favor? Linda pressed her phone into the girl's palm. The screen was spiderwebbed with cracks. Call 911. Tell them we're at the Pine Street Savrite. Say possible pneumonia, so they come fast. Tessa nodded and stepped to the curb, voice strong when she spoke. Linda guided Ray's sips, timed his coughing, rubbed small circles between his shoulder blades the way she used to for a boy who'd outgrown her arms. You don't have to, Lynn, Raymond rasped, eyes glassy. Yeah, I kinda do, she said, smiling like it was obvious. Don't argue. I'm undefeated in arguments. He wheezed something that might have been a laugh. Tessa came back, breathless. They're on their way. Like, 2 minutes. Good job. Linda squeezed her hand. That's a hero move, honey. Tessa's cheeks went pink. Her phone was still in her other hand, camera pointed down. She hesitated. Is it weird if you want to film? Linda finished for her, amused. Tessa bit her lip. It's just people need to see people helping people, you know? Not like, she gestured vaguely at the whole world. Linda shrugged. Film the help, not the hurt. She tilted her head so the girl could frame it. On one side, a woman in a thrift store sweater holding a stranger's hand. On the other, the town she loved, pretending it was bigger than it was. Sirens licked the edge of the block. Paramedics, Kyle Morton and Elena Ruiz, stepped out, efficient, kind-eyed, already snapping gloves. They recognized Linda. Everybody did. Morning, Miss Carter, Kyle said as he knelt. What we got? Fever, productive cough, shallow breaths, chills, Linda rattled off. Onset unknown, but he's been out since that cold front. Elena slid a pulse oximeter on Raymond's finger. O2's low. Let's get him on a neb. You're okay, sir. You're in good hands. Best in town, Linda said. Meaning it. They loaded him gently. Ray grabbed Linda's apron string with surprising strength. "Come?" "I'll meet you there," she promised, patting his hand. "Gotta put my cat on notice, I'll be late for lunch." He chuckled weakly, then coughed, then disappeared behind doors with a whoosh. Tessa was still filming, but her eyes were wet. "Is he gonna be okay?" "Better than he would have been," Linda said, then angled a smile at the camera. "If anyone's watching this later, be brave enough to care, okay? That's the whole trick." Tessa's clip hit Oak Ridge Neighborhood Watch by noon, then hopped to someone's cousin's TikTok, then got stitched by a nurse in Tulsa who cried on camera and called Linda an angel. The local paper grabbed the headline that would stick like gum under the town's shoe: "Fired waitress saves a life in the rain." By mid-afternoon, reply chains bloomed like wildflowers. "That's Linda. Been serving this town longer than I've been alive. Y'all fired her? Nah, that's insane. This is what community looks like, mother effers. Someone hire this woman ASAP. At Carter Industries, care to comment?" At Carter's Diner, the bell never stopped jingling, but the mood was off. Regulars took their coffee to go, like sitting felt disloyal. Rick slammed plates down harder than necessary. Janet kept blowing her nose and pretending it was allergies. Behind the counter, Ethan Carter caught his reflection in the steel of the espresso machine, the suit, the jaw, the eyes that never looked tired in the photos, but sure as hell did now. He didn't see the clip yet. He just felt the air change, the way animals do right before the sky breaks. Claire Benson pushed through the back with her phone up like a warrant. "We have a problem," she said, breathless, in a way the gym never made her. "What now?" he said, not asking. She didn't answer. She just tapped the screen and held it for him, as if she were showing him a sonogram. The video filled his palm. Rain, breath, the gloved hands, Linda on her knees, that old apron like a flag. The audio picked up Linda's voice, steady and warm. "Be brave enough to care, okay? That's the whole trick." For a second, before pride remembered its lines, Ethan's face unarmored. It was there and gone, the kid inside the suit, the one who collected bottle caps and believed in rockets. "Play it again," he said, voice not quite his. Claire did. The second time, he heard things he missed, the way Linda said Ray, like not all names needed a last. The way she touched his shoulder with that little circle rub she used to do when nightmares turned the walls to wolves. The way she slid her scarf off without flinching, even though her own coat was thin. "Comments are everywhere," Claire said, softer now. "Half the town is tagging you. Hashtag #BringBackLinda is trending regionally. Also, Channel 5 wants a statement." He swallowed. The diner sounds fell away. The clink of silverware, the hiss of the grill, the laughter that didn't quite laugh. He only heard rain on a video and a voice from a life he spent a decade running from. "That's your mom," Claire added, not accusing exactly, naming the sky blue. He didn't nod, didn't speak. His fingers whitened around the phone until Claire gently rescued it before he cracked the screen. "She never stopped loving me," he said. And he didn't know he was saying it out loud until Rick walked by and paused. Rick's mouth went crooked. "Buddy, there's about 8 of us here who could have told you that for free." Ethan blinked. "I fired her." "Yeah," Rick said, not unkind. "You did." Claire stepped closer, her tone all business to give him a ladder out of the pit. "We can do a statement, apologize publicly, offer her job back, donate to the shelter, run a whole mercy tour." He stared at the floor, then at the laminated rule sheet on the wall. 0 tolerance. It suddenly looked cheap, loud, wrong. "No," he said, surprising both of them. "No PR spin." Claire's eyebrows went up. "Okay, then what?" He lifted his eyes. Something in them had gone raw, human. I need to see where she lives. Rick snorted. You own half the block and don't know your mama's address? That's cold. Ethan exhaled, shame like a swallow of something that burns on the way down. I kept it out of my head. Easier that way. Claire nodded once. I'll drive. He shook his head. I will. Sir, Claire, he said quietly, I fired the only person who ever made that place feel like home. He gestured vaguely at the diner, at the sign with his last name that felt like it belonged to a ghost. I'm not delegating this. She studied him for a beat, then slipped him a folded paper from her pocket. Wrote it down in case you ever got brave. Thought today might be that day. On the paper, an address, 114 Sycamore, apartment 2B. And she hesitated. There's more you should see, in case the story in your head isn't the whole story. He frowned. What does that mean? Go find out, she said simply. On his way out, a woman at a booth, Maggie Turner, known for her lemon bars and sharper opinions, stopped him with a palm on the table. You're a smart boy, Mr. Carter, she told him like a teacher grading a test. Don't be stupid where it counts. He nodded, and for once, didn't argue. The black SUV coughed to life. The streets of Oak Ridge rolled by his window. Storefronts he'd memorized as a kid. Tilted porches. A boy on a BMX popping a shaky wheelie. An old man walking a terrier in a sweater knitted by somebody who loved both of them. The town looked exactly the same and nothing like it. He took a left onto Sycamore and parked under a tree that dropped leaves like notes. The apartment building was brick scarred by time. 6 units, a buzzer panel that stuck on 2, and a hallway that smelled like toast. He climbed the stairs and paused at a door with a sticker of a daisy by the peephole. He raised his hand to knock, then hesitated. Fear isn't a thing he admitted often, but it showed up anyway. Sat on his chest, dared him. From inside, he heard Boots complain in that authoritative cat way. A lamp clicked. The floor creaked. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again, softer. Linda, he said, then swallowed. Mom? Nothing. Seconds stretched past polite into ridiculous. He tried the knob and felt the deadbolt. Locked. Of course. He stepped back, heart picking up. Down the hall, a door opened and a woman with a toddler on her hip peeked out. Sharon Pike. You looking for Linda? She's at the hospital. Been there since morning. His stomach dropped. Is she okay? Not for her, Sharon said, a tiny smile. She rode in with Raymond. Wouldn't leave him alone. Of course she didn't. Which hospital? He asked, already moving. County. Sharon's toddler waved. Ethan waved back absently and took the stairs 2 at a time. Back at the curb, he stood a moment under the thin sycamore shade and stared at the torn corner of a sticker on her door. A small, peeling heart. He almost reached for it. Almost. Instead, he turned and headed for the SUV. On the passenger seat, his phone lit up with a new notification. You're tagged in a post. He tapped it without meaning to. The video again. The comments. A stitched clip with a caption that smacked him clean. At Nurse J. To whoever fired this woman, do better. To the son she clearly raised, call your mother. He closed his eyes. The memory came uninvited. 8 years old, scraped knees. Linda teaching him how to blow across a hot mug to cool it, saying, patience is just love with a timer on it. He put the car in drive. As the county medical center rose ahead like a practical beige spaceship, he gripped the wheel until his knuckles bleached. He wasn't thinking about PR anymore, or upgrades, or legacy. He was thinking about a woman in a cheap coat who kept the seat warm, even when the person she saved didn't sit in it. He was thinking about the sound of her voice when she said, Be brave enough to care, and how he had spent so long being careful. He forgot how to be brave. Inside the hospital lobby, it smelled like sanitizer and old magazines. An information clerk named Patrick Doyle looked up, all freckles and authority. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for a patient. Raymond, no last name." Patrick typed. "We've got a Raymond Ellis in intake, respiratory. The lady who rode with him's in the waiting room. She basically adopted the whole floor in an hour." "Yeah," Ethan said, a laugh breaking out of him when he didn't expect it. "That sounds right." Patrick pointed left. "Down the hall, past the vending machines." Ethan nodded his thanks, but didn't move for a beat. He caught his reflection in the glass entry doors, the man he made, layered over the boy he lost. For the first time since the day a county car pulled away, he felt the tether tug. He headed down the corridor, the fluorescent hum syncing with his heartbeat, ready to walk into whatever this next part was. No stopwatch, no rules sheet, no armor. And in the waiting room at the end of the hall, under a TV playing silent weather radar, and beside a plant that had seen better seasons, Linda Carter was pouring stale coffee into a stranger's styrofoam cup, talking softly like the world's most generous lullaby. He stopped in the doorway, breath caught, gravity reintroduced. He didn't speak, not yet, because the next scene had to be clean. It had to be honest. It had to be the kind of thing you don't rehearse, only live. Outside, Oak Ridge went about its ordinary business, not knowing its story had just bent. Inside, a son finally turned toward the woman who never stopped facing him. The automatic doors of County Medical Center slid open with that hush of compressed air, like the building was swallowing the noise outside. Ethan Carter stood in the lobby for a beat too long, staring at the white tiles until the reflection steadied. He was good at walking into places he didn't belong, boardrooms, investor galas, but this was different. Hospitals smelled like truth. Down the hall, the vending machine buzzed beside a waiting room painted in tired beige. Linda sat in one of the molded plastic chairs, pouring sugar into a paper cup until it looked like snowdrift. Same posture as always, back straight, shoulders squared, eyes kind even when tired. He almost turned back, but then she looked up. For a split second, both of them forgot how to breathe. "Ethan," she said, voice small but steady. He froze halfway between doorway and courage. You're okay?" She blinked, confused. "Me? Yeah, it's Ray. They're keeping him overnight. Pneumonia, just like I thought." She smiled weakly. "I got lucky. He didn't." He nodded, hands in his pockets. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah," she said, half a laugh. "You keep saying that about everything I do. Maybe stop underestimating me, huh?" He sat across from her. The cheap chair squealed like it was judging him. For a while, neither spoke. The air between them was full of unsaid years. Then Linda sipped her coffee. "So, you saw it?" "The video," he said. "Yeah," she shrugged. "Didn't know it'd go all Hollywood on me. I just didn't want to let that man die in the cold." "That's what you do," he murmured. "You save people." She studied him, and the silence softened. "You drove here, didn't you? From the diner?" He nodded. "I wanted to. I needed to see where you live." Her eyebrows lifted, amused and sad all at once. "You make it sound like a museum tour." "Maybe it is," he said quietly. "A place I should have visited a long time ago." Later that night, Linda's apartment. Linda unlocked the door and pushed it open with her shoulder. "Well, come in, Mr. Tech Mogul," she teased, though her voice trembled a little. "Mind the cat. He judges billionaires." Boots blinked up at Ethan from the couch, unimpressed. The apartment was small, but it smelled like cinnamon and detergent, the same scent that used to cling to his childhood blankets. On the wall, photos filled a cheap wooden frame. Neighbors, co-workers, and one picture that stopped him cold. It was him, 10 years old, smiling in front of a crooked Christmas tree. The photo was taped, worn thin from touch. "Where'd you?" he started. "I kept it," she said. "Everywhere I moved. Couldn't toss it. Not after they took you." He moved closer, noticing a stack of envelopes on the little dining table, rubber-banded, faded with time. His name written in the corner, Ethan Carter, in the same careful handwriting. He picked one up. The return address was hers. The stamp was a decade old. "I wrote every month," she said softly. "At first, they came back. Then I stopped getting any reply, so I figured maybe you were too busy hating me to open them." She smiled sadly. "Turns out you never even saw 'em." He sat down heavily, letter still in hand. "I didn't know. They told me you. They said you stopped trying." Her jaw tightened. They lied. He opened one. The paper crinkled like a ghost waking up. "Dear Ethan," it began. "I found your math trophy from 3rd grade. I cleaned it up. It still shines. I hope you're eating good. Hope they're kind. I'm saving a seat at the table, just in case." He read 3 more before his vision blurred. Each one was the same: updates, prayers, promises. Linda watched him quietly. "I kept the letters even after they came back. Figured someday you might need proof I didn't quit." He swallowed hard. "All those years I thought you left me." "You were a kid," she said gently. "They told you things to make it easier. That's what the system does. It makes people disappear on paper." He set the letters down carefully, like they were made of glass. "I built everything trying to prove I didn't need anyone," he said. "Every win, every company, every stupid headline, just me yelling into the dark that I wasn't broken." Linda reached across the table, resting her hand over his. "Baby, you were never broken, just lost." He looked at her, eyes glassy. "You kept writing even when I never wrote back." She smiled through tears. "Well, I always was stubborn." He laughed, short and cracked, then quieter. "You really never stopped, not once," she said. For the first time, the silence between them wasn't heavy. It was healing. Later, midnight. The letters lay open across the table, paper islands in the dim light. Ethan sat on the floor beside the couch, Boots snoring beside him, while Linda dozed in her recliner. He read every line like scripture. "Proud of you always. You're still my boy. If you can't find me, follow the smell of pancakes." He looked around her tiny apartment, the chipped mug on the counter, the blanket folded neatly on the armrest, and realized what home really meant. It wasn't polished. It wasn't rich. It was unconditional. When she stirred awake, he whispered, "Mom?" Her eyes fluttered open, sleepy and warm. "Yeah, honey?" He smiled faintly. "Tomorrow, can we go to the diner?" "Why?" "Because I think I broke it," he said, "and I need your help to fix it." She chuckled softly. "You, sir?" He nodded. "Yeah, I'm done running." Ethan's voiceover, as the scene fades. "I used to think success meant leaving the past behind. Turns out, the past isn't a place, it's a person. And sometimes, coming home doesn't mean finding where you belong. It means finding who you never stopped belonging to." Morning light crept over Oak Ridge, the kind that turns the whole town honey gold before folks remember their bills and regrets. The air smelled like coffee and wet pavement. The diner stood quiet on Main Street, blinds still drawn, a handwritten sign taped to the door that read in Ethan's sharp handwriting, "Closed for renovation, family business only." Inside, the tables gleamed, the floor was freshly mopped, and the sign above the counter, once shouting Carter's Diner, now bore a paper banner taped over the top. The new name waited under it, hidden for now. Ethan Carter stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled, heart hammering harder than it had during any business deal. He looked out the window for the 100th time. "She's late," he muttered. Claire Benson, now leaning against the jukebox that still didn't work, sipped her coffee. "She's 50-something, not a calendar alert, boss." He shot her a look. "You didn't have to come." "I did," she said. "Someone has to witness the miracle when the mighty Ethan Carter says, 'I'm sorry.'" He almost smiled. "You sure it's a miracle?" She shrugged. "You apologizing to your mom? That's a whole Christmas movie." The bell over the door jingled. Ethan froze. There she was, Linda Carter, standing in the doorway in her Sunday coat, hair brushed, nervous as the first day of school. "What's all this?" she asked, eyes darting between them. "You opening early to show off?" He shook his head slowly. "Not exactly." Claire grinned. "I'll, go inventory napkins or something?" She slipped into the kitchen, leaving them alone. Linda stepped forward. The diner looked new but familiar, like somebody had cleaned her memories without asking. "You changed everything," she murmured. "Not everything," he said. "Just the parts that weren't fair." She turned, eyebrows lifting. "You mean the part where you fired me in front of half the county?" He winced. "Yeah, especially that part." He reached under the counter, pulled out an envelope, and laid it in front of her. Her name, Linda Carter, written in the same handwriting that once labeled science projects and birthday cards. "What's this?" "Your job offer," he said. "Except it's not a job anymore. It's your place. Your diner. I'm just helping." She blinked, confused. "Ethan?" He lifted a hand, cutting her off gently this time. "Just hear me out." He walked around the counter, stopping in front of her. No fancy words, no CEO stance, just a son standing in the place where he once learned how to pour coffee without burning himself. "I thought you left me," he said quietly. "I built a whole life around that thought. And when I saw you again, all I could feel was that same hurt. I didn't even ask what really happened. I just punished you for it." Her throat worked. "You were a kid, Ethan. You believed what they told you." "Yeah, but I'm not a kid anymore," he said, voice rough. "And I've been running from you like that was gonna fix anything. Turns out I was just lost with better shoes." He held up a letter, creased, yellowed, the one she wrote when he turned 18. "Found these," he whispered. "All of them. You never stopped." Her eyes filled instantly. "I didn't know they'd ever reach you." "They did," he said, "just late." She took a shaky breath. "So what now? You want me back flipping eggs for your Thance?" He smiled a little. "No, I want you home." He stepped aside and nodded toward the window. Outside, a small crowd had gathered. Neighbors, regulars, even that kid Tessa with her yellow raincoat. They weren't holding cameras this time, just coffee cups and smiles. Linda frowned, bewildered. "What's going on?" "Go look," he said. She pushed the door open. The crowd parted, and there it was, the new sign, freshly painted in soft red letters. Linda's Place. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, Lord." Ethan's voice came from behind her. "You said you kept my seat warm. I figured maybe I could keep the lights on." The crowd laughed softly, and someone started clapping. Rick, in his grease-stained apron, tears glistening in his eyes. Janet joined in, then Tessa. Then the rest of the town. Linda turned back to Ethan, speechless. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small paper napkin, the kind from the diner. On it, in his old, childlike handwriting, were 4 words he'd written years ago. Me plus Linda equals home. He handed it to her. Guess it still checks out. Her laugh broke into a sob as she pulled him into her arms. For a second, the whole world narrowed to the smell of coffee and clean shirts and safety. You came home hungry, she whispered. I kept your seat warm. I know, he murmured into her hair, and I'm sorry it took me this long to come back. The crowd cheered again, but softer this time, like church applause. Even the old jukebox sparked to life for the first time in a decade, letting out a crackly hum before crooning an old country tune about second chances. Linda chuckled through tears. Well, I'll be damned. You fixed the jukebox? Ethan laughed, wiping his face. Didn't touch it. Guess it just needed a reason to sing again. Later that afternoon, the diner buzzed with warmth. The zero-tolerance sheet was gone, replaced by a handwritten sign that read, Be kind or be elsewhere. Linda moved through the room with her old rhythm, apron tied proud. Ethan followed her lead, bussing tables, joking with customers, spilling coffee once, and earning a chorus of teasing cheers. Rick leaned over the counter. Hell, kid, looks like you finally learned to serve people instead of spreadsheets. Ethan grinned, trying to keep up with the pro. Linda passed by and smacked him lightly with a towel. Don't sass your boss. Thought you were retired, he teased. From you? Never. They laughed, and it echoed against the chrome and tile like the diner itself had joined in. For the first time in 22 years, Oak Ridge felt whole. A week later, Linda's place had a line out the door. The morning sun poured through the diner windows, turning every chrome edge and coffee pot into liquid gold. The air smelled like bacon, maple syrup, and forgiveness. The bell above the door didn't get a break anymore. It jingled nonstop, like the diner had finally found its heartbeat again. Inside, every booth was full. The regulars had returned, and they brought their friends. Truckers, teachers, teenagers from the high school who came just to take selfies under the new sign. And in the middle of it all, Ethan Carter, billionaire ex-tech prodigy, now wore an apron that said, Coffee trainee, be patient. He was behind the counter with Rick, learning how to pour without spilling and losing that battle spectacularly. Rick snorted, Buddy, you make a bigger mess than my 5-year-old with a chocolate milk. Ethan grinned. I'm a work in progress. You said that last week. Still true this week. Linda walked past, tray balanced like second nature. Don't encourage him, Rick. He's still in training. Ethan mock saluted. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am. She winked. There's my boy. The customers chuckled. There was something pure about watching the richest man in town wipe syrup off a counter while his mom ran circles around him. A quiet moment. Between breakfast and lunch, the diner slowed. The last of the morning crowd drifted out. The clatter faded, and sunlight warmed the tile. Ethan leaned against the counter, breathing for the first time all morning. I forgot how good tired can feel, he said. Linda wiped her hands on her apron. That's honest work tired, the kind that earns your dinner. He nodded, smiling softly. I missed this. You didn't know you missed it, she corrected. Big difference. He looked around the diner, the photos of regulars on the wall, the corner booth where Hank told tall tales, the counter where he once sat swinging his legs as a kid. You were right, he said. This place wasn't broken. I just didn't understand it. Understanding comes with dish soap and humility, she said, stacking plates. You've had both lately. He laughed. Yeah, I'm practically enlightened now. She chuckled, then tilted her head toward the windows. Come here, show-off. You got company. The press and the people outside, a few local reporters gathered, cameras slung low, waiting respectfully instead of shouting questions. Oak Ridge wasn't the kind of town that hounded people. It watched from porches. It whispered in grocery aisles. Ethan stepped out, apron still on. No PR team in sight. Mr. Carter, one reporter called. Can we get a few words about the diner's reopening? He nodded. Sure. They gathered around, microphones out but faces soft. This wasn't Wall Street. This was home. So, one woman asked, why rename it Linda's Place? He smiled. Because that's what it's always been. Laughter rippled through the crowd. He continued, voice steady. When I first bought this diner, I thought I was saving it. Truth is, it was saving me. I lost my mom to the system, and I spent years pretending I didn't care. But she never stopped looking for me. Never stopped believing I'd come home. He paused, catching Linda's proud smile through the window. This diner taught me that love isn't charity. It's consistency. It's showing up. And she showed up every day, for everyone, even when nobody showed up for her. The cameras clicked, but quieter this time. Respectful. So what happens next? A young reporter asked. You keeping the place running? Ethan nodded. Yeah, with a few upgrades, but nothing that changes what matters. We're adding health insurance for every worker, higher wages, and a scholarship program for foster kids who want to go to college. He smiled at the surprise on their faces, because nobody should have to pick between love and survival. Applause broke out. Not the big city kind, but the small town kind, where everyone means it. Back inside, Linda was wiping tears with a dish rag when he walked back in. Scholarships? She said, shaking her head. You didn't tell me that. He shrugged. Surprise. Ethan, that's a lot of money. He grinned. Yeah, but I finally figured out what money's for. She looked at him for a long moment. You really have changed. Maybe, he said. Or maybe I just came back to who I was supposed to be. They hugged again, this time without years between them. The jukebox played softly, some old Otis Redding song about love that doesn't quit. Later that evening, the dinner crowd thinned, leaving the diner quiet again. The neon sign outside buzzed softly, casting warm red light across the room. Ethan sat in a booth, rolling a sugar packet between his fingers. Linda poured him one last cup of coffee and slid into the seat across from him. So, she said, what's next for the great Ethan Carter? He smirked, thinking about retiring early. She arched an eyebrow. You're 32. Yeah, he said, but I've lived a couple lifetimes already. Retiring to do what? He looked around. This, be here, run the place, help out where I can. Linda laughed. You sure? This ain't glamorous. He smiled. That's the point. She leaned back, content. Never thought I'd see the day I'd have my son bussing tables. He raised his mug in a toast, and loving it. They clinked mugs, hers black coffee, his loaded with too much sugar, and drank quietly, the way only family can when words aren't needed. The diner bustling. A new sign on the wall reading the Linda Carter Scholarship Fund, because every kid deserves a seat at the table. Inside, Ethan is flipping pancakes with Rick, badly. Linda laughs so hard, she nearly drops a plate. Tessa, the girl with the yellow raincoat, now works weekends, saving for college. Claire stops by for breakfast on her day off, joking she misses yelling at her boss. The camera lingers on the sign above the door. Linda's Place, EST, 1978. Reborn, 2025.